Should Drake Maye start week 1?
Well, listen, the argument against him starting week 1 is actually a long-winded indictment of the end of the Belichick era. Because the argument against him starting week 1, I think, for most is, oh, man, that offensive line is in such rough shape. Is he going to get beat up? I don't agree with Jerod Mayo that when you draft a quarterback in the top 5, the calculus is purely, is he better than our incumbent veteran backup by week 1? I'll give you a for instance. I do not think Sam Darnold is a good NFL starting quarterback, and I really liked very limited what I saw from J.J. McCarthy in week 1 of the preseason. Yeah. I would have bet Darnold would be better than J.J. on September 8th. Yeah. But I still would have said start J.J. Like, get him those reps, get him that experience, because Kevin Clark made this point, and I think he's right. The NFL has changed a lot, and you don't have as long of training camp. You don't have two-a-days. You don't have as many padded practices. The best time a young player has to improve is in the games, because they are not going to be able to improve in practice and in the offseason as much as guys could previously. And so you said the word twice in your lead. What I wanted to see was flashes, and I saw them. Like, you saw why some people were so enamored with this kid's talent. So to me, Greg, he is going to end up being the starter. I have a date we can discuss later about when I think he'll be. I don't care so much if he starts week 1 or not. I'm very confident he's going to be starting before Halloween.
Yeah, man. Yesterday, I was sitting right here in this seat, and you guys know how I feel about rookie quarterbacks. If you have a bridge guy, play that guy.
Yep.
After watching last night, nope.
Oh.
Played that guy.
Oh.
Look.
At all because Jacoby struggled a little bit?
And there's always been one caveat for me. If the rookie coming in is just hands down better and it just jumps off the tape, then you got to go with that. Because when we looked at that game and you watched, and you're a Pats fan.
Well, cogent analysis, but coincidentally, yes.
That gives cogent analysis. Yeah. But you watch this team. When you watch them with Jacoby Brissett, they're so predictable. There's nothing that he's going to do that's going to provide that team with a spark or ad-libs, as we like to look at it, off-script plays. He doesn't do any of that. You better have solid protection, because he's going to stay in the pocket. He's going to step up in the pocket. He's not going to get outside the pocket and do any damage that way. And you better be able to run the ball. Those are your options with Jacoby Brissett.
I also don't think he's going to fumble a snap from the center.
To coach's point that he made yesterday, and I give him all the credit, he said no quarterback center exchanges, and we saw that. But what we also saw was what Nick's talking about, those flashes. You got to show why a team decided to draft you at this position in the draft, and he did that. I'm talking about with receivers that we all witnessed create the least amount of separation I've seen in a long time. Yeah. I'm talking getting jammed to the sideline, and it's like, okay, if you're gonna make me throw it over there, I'll throw it over there, and I'll put it in a tight window. We saw Jacoby try to do it. It didn't work. We saw Drake Maye try to do it, and it actually worked. The guys just didn't catch the balls. So, for me, and the offense just moved. Yeah. When you look at the mistake that Jacoby made, and I don't mean to belabor this, but second drive, you drive all the way down. The expectation of a veteran guy, if you're going to bridge him, is to, when you have points on the board, you take points. You can't erase points off the board. Jacoby erased points. And if there was a guy to make that mistake standing on that sideline or on that bench, you don't expect it to be Jacoby. You don't expect it to be, you expect it to be Drake Maye or whoever else is under center, not your veteran guy that you're potentially hoping to start and give this guy an opportunity to sit back and learn from. So he looked better. The offense looked better. I like him.
You guys are into it.
Well, go ahead.
Well, two things. One, I thought it was interesting that Jacoby got so frustrated with the pick. He went to the sidelines. I'm like, man, he's really upset. It made me think maybe his job's a little bit more in jeopardy than I originally thought. But I have decided, and if it turns out the other way, I will take. Don't look at my notes.
I'm curious.
You're spying.
I'm curious
if it's the cheating off someone's paper. No, I don't. You're basically cheating off my. And then I'm going to say it, and you're like, yeah, I thought that too.
No, I have it written down on a date. I'm curious if we're the same one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious now too.
Go ahead.
Week 1, let's see the Patriots schedule
Yeah.
does. Week 1 in Cincinnati against Joe Burrow. Just no. I don't like that one. Home debut against the Seahawks, no. At the Jets, no. It's an Aaron Rodgers show. It's the Jets. I don't want to lose. Just not yet. Week 4 in San Francisco, no thank you. And now we have a nice little home run. Not home run baseball, a little home run.
What's under?
Home against the Dolphins. Home against CJ, which I think is a nice measuring stick for you. Then we're in London against the Prince, and now you already saw the Jets. You get to play the Jets at home. We'll take that one, and then we're off and running because our bye is too late.
Gosh darn it, Wild.
Yeah, that's what happened. Surprise, surprise. We have the same one.
Did you?
Right.
So
no,
home versus Miami.
Okay, that's what I have.
Yeah, that's the right. If he doesn't start week 1, I think that's the. Here's why it's an interesting decision.
You don't want to play the 49ers.
No, correct.
Yeah.
So because the Jets game's on a Thursday, so it's like
short week. That's
right. So you're not going to do that. And then there's you could have a mini bye before he starts, but then your first game's the Niners.
Yeah.
You don't want that. So here's the point I'm making. If he doesn't start week 1, I think the earliest he can start is week 5.
Yep.
Does that so that's and I wasn't cheating off your paper.
And I would also probably say you can't. I don't want to start him in London.
No.
Just too weird.
And so
you have to start then.
So I think the point that I was making, if they don't start him, I honestly think it will be less about Jacoby and more about the offensive line. And that just for a moment here, this is why building a football team is so interesting, and the successful football teams, I know we talk so much about the quarterback, but there's so many butterfly effects and dominoes that play into it. The Patriots with the 37th pick this year took the 10th wide receiver off the board. The 37th pick of the draft was the 10th wide receiver, Jalen Polk, because they got snubbed in free agency. Mm-hmm. They missed on other guys in the draft. It was such a desperate need. Because of that, they couldn't address their offensive line right now until the 3rd round. Right now, their starting left tackle is a rookie 3rd rounder. And so there is this cascading effect of missed free agencies or missed draft picks, which has led to, it's not like they have drafted a bunch of the wrong offensive linemen, but they've missed on guys at other positions, which has made them use those resources on other positions. And I think that's the reason, if he doesn't start week 1, it's not going to be because they think Jacoby's clearly better. It's because they want the offensive line to have a month to gel before they put him out there.
Yes, I just think he's going to start week 1 after what I'm seeing. And the reason, one of the other reasons why is when you're offensive coordinator and you're trying to call your plays, you don't want to feel like you're limited or restricted on any part. But if there is a moment where you're going to say, okay, well, let's save this. You would want that to be because it's I don't want to put this on him, not because he can't handle it. So that would be the situation. With Jacoby, and I don't like down talking on players, but he's limited. And it was evident. Like, when you look at the play calls, it's like, okay, we're not going to move the pocket. We're not going to get out.
He's a great backup quarterback.
That is his role.
That's his role.
That is literally his role, and it's showing.
You know what made, when you talked about like the offensive coordinator, Van Pelt, so we have, rookie head coach, rookie GM, first-time offensive coordinator. There might be like, hey, we need to go with the rookie. And, it gives us all a little bit of rope here to be like, we're all going through it together, but we have to sort of start moving in the right direction. Huh?
Wow.
What?
Still, by the way, still batting 1,000 for all of NFL history of coaches saying the team they just practiced against was physical. Well, I'm yet to see the one be like, man, that was a really finesse team we were up against this week. Basically playing patty cake out there. Here's the problem. My problem is twofold. One is, last year in week 1 of the regular season, they played the Patriots. And they won, but they seemed lethargic, out of sorts. And Nick Sirianni said after that week 1 game, maybe it was a mistake not playing my guys in the preseason. Now, they started 8-0 the year before. Last year, they started 10-1. So I get that piece of it. But I really believe the Eagles need to have their starters have some success before this year starts. Because last year, we can show it to you, I think Supernatural Funk and the jokes we've made understated. For 2 months last year, they were arguably the worst team in the NFL. No one in the league has done more losing since December 1st. Only the Commanders lost more games, and the Commanders cleaned house. The Chargers cleaned house. The Jaguars, their quarterback got hurt. You can't really.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? And so of all the teams in the league, Greg, that I would think, hey man, have your starters go out there, especially against, but a Patriots team that is weak and just traded away Matthew Judon and get, 7 plays, 75 yards, touchdown, bang, feel good, new season. It's just weird that they would be okay rolling into next year with the last football those starters played together was that disaster run.
Yeah, and that was my number one takeaway. The way you ended the season with all the discord, with all the questioning of relationships, and are we on the same page, even with the head coach, even with the quarterback and receivers? Like, we bring in new guys. We've struggled the tail end of the season, and it just puts into question, like when you talk about practicing against a team, was it something that you saw in those practices that gave you pause to say, I don't even want to put them out there because I didn't like what I saw? Ooh. Because if you were beating up on that team, it would be different. It would be completely different if you felt really good about what you saw all week in practice and it was like, yeah, this would be a waste of our time to put those guys out there. And we looked really, really good, and those were the reports and all the things. But even still, in that situation, with Nick Sirianni, in my opinion, being on one of the hottest seats in the National Football League at head coach, you put them out there.
That's what I thought.
You put them out there because you want to show. You want to show well. And if you played well against this team in joint practices, guys, give me one series. Just give me one series.
Can I ask you a question? Because I've never been in joint practices versus preseason. What is the intensity? If games are here, joint practices are here, or in joint practices, where are preseason games?
So I think you can get a lot out of joint practices. I actually enjoyed them. I didn't think I would ever. I did it when I was in Miami. It was my first time experiencing it. I thought they were great because it is ratcheted up a little bit because you're competing against someone that doesn't wear the same helmet as you. Mm-hmm. And so naturally you want to show well because this is our team, that's their team. However, it's different because you're not hitting. There's some things that you just go in and you're like, I don't have to, there's no butterflies when you go to a joint practice. But when you're about to play a game, preseason and or regular season game, there are little butterflies because this is live. This is real. You can't fake it. One guy might go a different speed or intensity level, but you better believe you better be ready to go because he's going to hit you or you're going to hit him. So I don't buy that in the joint practices we got our bulk of the work.
As much as in the games.
What will we see when Jalen Hurts hits the field? Well, Henry McKenna writes on FoxSports.com that a mobile Jalen Hurts is key to the Eagles' success. Bottom line is that the Eagles can't escape how badly they need Hurts' mobility in rushing production. His dip in rushing efficiency in 2023 wasn't just a symptom of their offensive issues, it was a cause. Expect Jalen Hurts to return to his 2022 form.
Do I expect it? No. Am I saying it's impossible? No, I'm not saying that. But right now, if I had to make a bet, I would bet 2022 was an aberration. I thought Jalen Hurts there were a lot of positives coming in, the way he handled the benching at Alabama, the way he improved as a player at Oklahoma. I saw that, I thought of it, and I'm like, okay, he's probably a second or third round pick. You know what I mean? A guy who, in the right system maybe. And then his first couple years in the league, I was like, yeah, it's exactly that. I thought he was getting the most out of his abilities by, it's like, oh, that guy might be a starter in this league. You know what I mean? Below average starter, but whatever. And then 2022, they almost go undefeated for the first 14 games of the year, and he plays a brilliant Super Bowl, unlike any of his 3 other previous playoff games. The 2 playoff games leading up to the Super Bowl, he had 270 yards passing total. Yeah. The playoff game the year before, he was way out of his depth against Tampa. And then the Super Bowl, he has 375 total yards, 4 touchdowns, goes toe-to-toe with Mahomes, is amazing. And then last year, he looked a lot like the guy from before. And so I am not, because of that Super Bowl and that season, Greg, I'm not acting like it's impossible. But do I expect it? I don't expect him to be able to do that again. I think it's a guy who everything hit right in the right time.
Greg, let me just show you the numbers, how starkly 2022 was from last year. 10 or more yards running, 61 times. Last year, 18 times, and then 20 or more yard runs, 15 times last year, only 2. So what are you expecting here?
So I expect him to get back to what he was in 2022.
Wow.
And it's going to look closer like that than it will like it did last year.
Wow.
And I say that because a lot of things. Jalen Hurts is one of those players that we never mention anything about injuries or what he was going through because he doesn't make excuses for himself. He never brings it up. He never talks about it. He just goes through it, and because he understands no one cares. No one cares. But the reality is he didn't look the same, and he wasn't able to be the same because he couldn't provide what his body was accustomed to providing in terms of being healthy. We didn't see him. The numbers are there's such a disparity in those numbers because he couldn't run the ball. When he would run, he's running straight out of bounds to the sideline.
Yep.
He wouldn't turn up the field. There was no type of a burst in his running when he eluded the line of scrimmage and got outside the pocket. And I believe it put a lot of pressure on him to be a pocket passer, something that I can sit here and say that's just not who he solely is. He's not exclusively a pocket passer. He's a guy that can get out, make things happen, hit a guy, get a guy wide open, and they make plays. So that's why I believe, as well as when you add in Kellen Moore, a new coordinator, that the chatter has been, man, he's allowing Jalen to be Jalen. There comes a moment where if there has been friction, and we talked about this yesterday, between head coach Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, I want to prove to everybody, like, I'm that guy. And if he's going to allow me to do that, let's do it together. So I believe that he's going to go into the season with that chip on his shoulder, that type of an edge and that type of approach. So that's why I think he's going to look closer to 2022 than last year.
Then the Eagles will be excellent. If that's the case, they'll be excellent.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.